Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks exciting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. Oh, and just one more thing before we go. Please consider like, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. But now with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so with Percy here, all I've done is I've given him a zenithal prime here, which is starting off with black and then spraying over it with white so we can really pick out those shadows and those highlights in there nice and easily for when we're painting it up. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting off with some neutral flesh here to match his skin tone, and it's a good nice base color that we want here so we can highlight up later on to add in those extra bits of details. And it's just a matter of picking out those areas where you can see his skin, which for Percy here is only his face, so a nice easy place to start off. Then once we've got that complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with a mixture of some of that neutral flesh we start off with, and then some highlight skin. So any sort of lighter tone, you could even mix in a little bit of white if you needed to get that higher tone of highlight color. And it's just a matter of coming in and picking out those areas that we want that would naturally be sort of hitting the sunlight. So that's sort of the nose, the eyebrows, a little bit of the cheeks that are sculpted in here, the chin, all those little areas. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to come in with some flesh wash. And this is, of course, a flesh tone wash, so it's perfect for going over his skin. And it's just a matter of giving a nice overall coverage, but being careful of pooling. So just watch it as it's dry, and as you need to, wick it up with your brush to try and avoid those pooling splotches. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing is coming back in with that same mixture we had just before for the highlights, and we're going to be applying them once again, this time in a bit smaller ratios and really picking them out so we get those really nice sharp highlights in those areas. And you can see I'm being a little bit more careful and selective with my brush here, just getting the tip so we can get those highlights on. Okay, so now we have the skin complete. It's time to start moving on to some bigger areas. And we're going to be using Kantor blue for this. And this, of course, is going to be Percy's signature jacket that he's wearing, that nice bright blue, and I think this colour matches up really well to Percy's sort of official artwork, as close as I could get with the paints I've got anyway. And I just really like this colour. It really pops out on the miniature, and it's just a matter of going in and picking out that cloak, really paying attention to applying multiple layers so we get a nice smooth even coat, especially in those nice big wide open areas as well. I want to be avoiding as many seeable brush strokes as we possibly can. Then once we have his cloak all picked out, we're going to come in with some khaki now, and we're going to be using this for his pants. So a nice sort of neutral colour here, and really being careful not to get any paint over our coat here. But at this stage, since we're still doing the base coating, it's not too bad, but it's just a lot of practicing your brush control here, because we can easily come in and tidy it up as we need to. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some rigid leather. And we're going to be using this for his boots and his gloves. Also, one thing I just forgot to mention too while we were painting up his pants, he has a few little sacks and pouches on his side. I just painted up a couple of them too with the khaki colour as well to add in that bit of visual interest and colour. But with the boots and the gloves, we want to make sure we get a nice overall coverage here, especially with this rigid leather, which I think has a nice tone to it as well, and really matches up with his official artwork. Then once we have those boots and gloves all painted up, it's time to come on with some rhinox hide, which is an even darker brown, and we're going to be using this for his belts and his straps that he has on here. So he also has a little gun holster as well. We're going to be painting that up with our rhinox hide, the super dark brown color, and it's going to be really good for helping contrast against the other brown we already have on there as well to help separate those pieces out. And of course, it's a matter of going and picking out those pouches. However, I'm not going to pick out the scabbard of the sword here. I'm going to leave that for a different color. Then once we have those completely painted up, what we're doing now is coming in with some deck tan. And what I'm going to be doing for this is I want to be doing his scarf that he has on him here, nice and easily shown out. It'll be very careful. This is a very small piece, so just really getting in and making sure that we get exactly what we want. As well as that, I also want to be painting Percy's hair as well, as we want to be using the deck tan for the base coat of the hair too. So don't forget to do that while you're painting it up. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some orange brown, and I'm going to be using this for the woodworking on the guns. Actually, it's a very different coloured brown than what we've been using, so I think it really helps stand out and really gives off a completely different colour as you can see here, and it contrasted next to these other browns. It's a very bright and vibrant, so it really helps separate them out, so you can definitely tell what's the gun and what's the gloves and what's the leather pouches. Just something there to make it a little bit more eye-catching. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some of our kantor blue again, and this time we're going to be mixing with some ivory, and we're going to be using this to pick out the highlighted areas that we want. So that is of course these nice billowing ripples that we have on his coat that he's got here. We want to be really making sure we get those nice high points on there, as well as that here's that nice big flap that's coming out that's blowing in the wind. We want to be getting sort of the inner part of that too, to really show that there's a nice big highlight, and it's just a matter of going around the model and picking out areas like that. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some Drakenhof Nightshade, which is a blue wash, and this is going to tie those colors together, so giving it a nice overall wash, especially being giving it a nice overall even coat, so especially since we've got those nice big flat areas as well. We want to make sure that we be nice when we're applying our wash there, to make sure it doesn't streak too much. So make sure you've got a decent amount on your brush and place it over, and then wipe away as needed, rather than applying too little and leaving streak marks. Then once that wash is completely dry, what we're going to do is come in now with some dark stone, and we're going to be using this for the scabbard of the sword that we've got here. Now this is up to you what color you want to do this, and I will actually change the color of this because I didn't like the color compared to the rhinox hide. I thought they were too similar, so I ended up by changing this later on. So totally up to you whether you want to do this step. So now what we're going to be doing here is we're going to come in with some agrax earthshade, and we want to be applying this to pretty much everywhere that we didn't have our blue wash, except for we want to be leaving the scarf of Percy as well as his hair. So applying it to basically all of the brown areas and the khaki colours that we've applied here. Being very careful, of course, not to let that wash run onto the cloak, especially since we've got a blue wash on top of that, and it would mix and make a very unsightly colour that we don't want. So we want to try and avoid that too. So being a little bit more selective with our wash placement here. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to come in with some oily steel. And this oily steel is sort of like a gritty, rough steel colour. I didn't want anything too shiny because Percy is the man who invented guns in their world. So I don't think he would have access to the pure, ultimate refined steel. He'd use what he had. And I think it'd be a little bit more rough and tumbled. Especially as well too, is it's going to add to the use of the weapons that he's been doing as well, especially since they're guns and they're firing a lot, and it's very old technology guns, so we want to have that sort of roughness to the metal there. So that's why I'm applying oily steel here, and it's just a matter of going through and picking out those metal areas. Okay, so now that we have all that steel done, what I'm going to be doing is coming in with some ivory. I'm going to be using this for one little spot on the miniature here, and that is for the inside of Percy's glasses. I want to have that cool sort of like anime white eye shining effect in the glasses, especially since they're so small. You can't do too much there, and you definitely can't paint eyes inside this miniature. So we're going to do a little effect to try and make it look like they're shining in the light. Then once we have that completed, what we're doing is coming in with some brassy brass now. And this is going to apply to a couple of areas on the miniature. We want to be doing it for the handle of his sword there, as well as that one, the little bit of like a filigree he has on his scabbard as well. But as well as that, there's going to be one tricky area that's going to take a lot of practice and brush control, and you may mess up a few times, but don't be afraid. It's going to be a nice bold area. I'm going to be using it on his glasses as well. Very, very small. Switch to a smaller brush if you need to. I probably should have switched to a smaller brush at this point. It was very, very close with how smallly sculpted the detail was to get those glasses to come out right. So don't be afraid to switch to a smaller brush to get this effect. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to do now is coming in with some Averland Sunset, which is a sort of mustard yellow colour, and we're going to be using this for the trim of his cloak. Now there is a lot to do here. As you can see, I've switched to a finer tip brush, but I still need to work a lot on my sort of fine tip brush skills, so this is a perfect way to do this, especially since there's a lot of little lines and edges that we need to paint with this. So don't be afraid. You got to be a little bit bold here and try your best. I mean, I didn't do it perfectly, but I did it to the best of ability as I could do. So you want to really pick those out and spend some time on these areas and really make them look cool and punchy, and that really helps the model stand out. So spend the extra effort and time to get these parts in, and don't just avoid them on the miniature. It really helps add that extra punch to the piece. Okay, now that we have that nice pop of yellow on the piece, what we're going to do now is coming in with some nuln oil. And what we want to be doing with this is we want to be applying it to the middle areas of the miniature that we've painted up. So that's everywhere we've got the silver and the oily steel color, as well as that also the brass as well. So just going around picking out those areas, being careful not to get any of that wash accidentally on the coat or anything too. So just being nice and controlled with it. Then once we have that complete and dried up, it's time to come back in with our khaki now, and we're going to be using this of course as a highlight, and this is going to be highlighting the area of the pants that we can see here. Just a matter of going over it, picking out the highest point as well as the point in the sun. So basically where the wash is gone, we want that just for the recesses and the edges, not on the actual main piece. We want to be coming back in with the khaki for that. Then once we have that complete, we're going to come back in with our rigid leather as well, and we're going to be doing the same thing basically as the khaki, except for this time we're going to be applying it to the edges and stuff, not going over the bold strokes. We just want those nice edges in there, as well as that too. Don't forget to do the gloves as well. We want to be aiming for the parts that will be naturally in the sun, so it's like the fingers here, the base of it, and around the rim to really help show off that we've got that lighter color in the light. Then once we've completed that, what we're going to do is we're going to come back in with ivory once again. I'm going to be using this to highlight his scarf that he's wearing, as well as that we also want to be highlighting here too. So as you can see, we've got even little details like the folds of the scarf in there as well that you can see I'm picking out. And the hair has some nice sculpted detail too, so we want to be picking that out as well. Spending the time going around and really picking out some of those higher points to make it look like the light is bouncing off and we've got a bit of natural effect to help really pop those parts out. And then once you've done that, there's just one more thing to do, and that's to paint up the base. Now, it's totally up to you what you want to do here. If you want to add in a cool, awesome base for him to be on, like he's out in the wilderness or something like that, go right ahead and add that in. But for me, I'm doing the exact same what I've done with all my Critical Role miniatures I've painted up so far, and that's just giving them a plain black base. So totally up to you what to do here. So now let's move on to some of those glamour shots and see what we've painted up. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up Percival De Rolo from the Critical Role Miniatures line by Steamforged Games. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use this video for some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures. But with all that said guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.